What's your most I set a boundary and got treated like the villain moment? Am I the asshole for not paying for my daughter's wedding where I'm supposed to be just a guest? I have 4 kids. My oldest is a 26-year-old daughter I had when I was 17 with my then girlfriend. We stayed together and raised her until we were 20, but then we realized we weren't really meant to be together and broke up. At 25, my ex got married and moved hours away across the country. We were sharing 50-50 its custody, but the courts were basically fucking useless. It went from each of us having her every other week to me seeing her once every few months. I eventually got married at 27 and had 3 more kids with my wife. I always tried to stay connected with my daughter via phone, but back then it was harder. Life just happened, and she grew closer to her stepdad. Fast forward to a few years ago, and they hit a really rough patch. Her stepdad was a mechanic, but he got injured and was left almost disabled. It was really bad. He had to retire and has been living on disability benefits ever since. Her mom is a nurse. They're surviving, but definitely not rich. I'm not rich either, just doing better because both my wife and I work respectable jobs. My daughter got engaged earlier this year and she's getting married next April. Her mom and stepdad can't afford to pay for the wedding, so she came to me. She asked if I could pay for it. I asked if I'd be part of the wedding. She tried avoiding the question and talking about something else, so I outright asked her if her stepdad is getting the father role. She said yes, he's going to walk her down the aisle, have the father-daughter dance, and give the father of the bride speech. Her logic is that I have 2 other daughters, so I'll still experience all of those things, while he only has her. I asked her if there was literally any part for me in the wedding, and she said no, I'd be just a guest. I asked if I could at least walk her down the aisle with him, and she refused again. She repeated that I have 2 other daughters I'll walk down alone and that this is supposed to be his special moment. I told her I'm not paying then. I love my daughter, but it's not fair for me to pay for a wedding where I'd just be a regular old guest, especially since I'm not rich. Paying for something like that is huge and would take away from my underage kids that depend on me. She got super angry at me and started cursing me out, saying she always knew I was a deadbeat. I was never one. I always paid child support, even though the custody situation was incredibly unfair, and I always did my best to visit her as much as possible. But again, I'm not rich and she lived across the country. I did my best and I do love her, but I just can't justify paying for basically a humiliation ritual. 2. Am I the asshole for canceling a 3rd date over a peanut allergy? A friend of mine set me up on a date with a coworker of hers. She said we were perfect for each other. Our first date was at a coffee shop, and then we arranged to meet up at a botanical garden the next week. While we were at the botanical garden, she told me about her peanut allergy, which she described as life-threatening. I told her that must be stressful, and she said it was. At the end of that date, we arranged for a lunch date for this coming week. After that date, I started thinking, I love peanuts and eat them all the time. I put peanut butter in or on a lot of stuff, including my dog's toys, which he drags all over my apartment. I'm sure there is invisible peanut oil everywhere. I can't see a potential relationship with this woman ever progressing to a serious stage without me changing my diet and habits. At this point, we've only been on 2 dates, and I think it would be more respectful of her time not to go on a 3rd. So I called her and told her I was sorry, but we needed to cancel. She asked if I wanted to reschedule, and I apologized but said I didn't think we would work out long term. She asked why, and I was honest. I told her I really like peanuts and would be nervous about potentially harming her. She said there were a lot of safety precautions we could take to keep her safe, and I admitted I know that, but I don't want to do them. She said wow and told me I'm immature. I apologized again, but she hung up. She told my friend what happened and my friend is confused by my reasoning. She said her coworker said I'm a massive douche. I don't feel like I am. We only went on 2 dates. 2 dates doesn't imply any commitment. I asked her if she agrees I'm a douche. She said she's not sure, but that my logic is definitely weird. 3. Am I the asshole for leaving the Christmas celebration early? I, 26F, don't have much of a relationship with my family outside of my older brother, 34M, his wife and their toddler. My parents and I don't speak. We haven't shared more than a polite hello since I was 18 and left for college. My brother is aware of this, and for the most part leaves it alone. Our parents live in a different part of the country, so most of the time they aren't around for any family events. They came to my brother's wedding, but I didn't really speak to them. They showed up for my nephew's birth, but we came to visit at different times, so I didn't run into them. I have always made it clear to my brother that if it causes him any grief or makes it difficult for him to balance his relationship with our parents with my being NC, no contact with them. I will do whatever possible, outside of rekindling our relationship, to make it easier for him. If that means being around them with a warning beforehand, missing events, or having to come celebrate something a few days later, then that's fine. He has told me that it's not an issue for him at all, which is why I really don't understand his reasoning behind this. Since we live in the same city, my brother, Sil, and nephew either come to my house to celebrate Christmas or I'll go to theirs. This year it was their turn to host, so I went to theirs on Christmas Day and we spent some time together as a family. It was mostly just us sitting around and talking while my nephew tore through wrapping paper and showed us his toys, but overall I was having a good time. I love my brother and his little family more than anything. Around noon, I went to put my nephew down for his nap. When I came back, my parents were standing in the living room with my brother. Usually, if they're going to be attending something, My brother will tell me in advance. He's never not done this because he knows what our relationship is like. Seeing them there without any warning just caught me off guard. My SIL seemed similarly surprised, but I don't know if they were just expecting them to come in later or if she wasn't aware they were going to be there at all. I had planned to stay all day, but being blindsided like that left me really unsettled. I told my brother in my SIL to tell my nephew I would drop by again later to help him put together one of his gifts, and then I left. My brother started blowing up my phone telling me to come back and saying that I couldn't just storm out of Christmas like that just because my parents showed up, but I ignored his messages. My parents evidently shared similar sentiments with our extended family because now I have my aunts and uncles texting and calling to say that it was rude to leave and that my issues with my parents shouldn't impede my ability to spend the holiday with my brother and his family. The only person I've responded to is my SIL, who texted to make sure I got home okay after I left. I do feel bad for leaving so abruptly, and I know it's not fair to my brother to have to balance his relationship with our parents and me like this, but I wasn't expecting to see them so suddenly. Had I been given the chance to know that they were going to show up, I might have been able to better prepare myself and handle it. But it's the blindsiding that really caught me off guard. 4. Am I the asshole for destroying embryos we were going to give to a couple we viewed as friends after they dissed us? A couple of years ago, my husband and I had a child via surrogacy. We had 5 top-grade embryos frozen after the delivery of our child. We did not intend to have another child, so we wanted to gift these embryos to a couple we viewed as friends until recently. We are open about our experience with surrogacy, which is as close to a textbook case of perfection as IVF can come. We are extremely thankful and realize this is an outlier. The timeline from the decision for IVF to a healthy birth was only 15 months, which included everything, including the surrogate search and vetting. Despite having no previous relationship, the surrogate, her family, and our family have become very close. We stated that we would like to gift the embryos to a couple who would otherwise be unable to have a family. So this couple, who were casual acquaintances we did consider friends, became a possibility. Let's call them Greg and Karen. Through whatever means, we were connected and discussed this possibility. The initial discussion was about whether they were interested, and if they were, we could talk about details and hopefully come to an arrangement. There was no commitment made. To protect ourselves, every interaction was recorded, and we were careful about the words used under the guidance of our legal counsel. We asked them to get legal representation and for their counsel to reach out to ours if they wanted to continue discussions on finalizing an agreement. As life can be with a new child, we spent time as a family and hosted or attended fewer social gatherings. So it turns out that this couple has a very different political ideology than we do. While we disapprove of a specific elected politician, they essentially worship this politician. Believe it or not, we had no idea this was the case beforehand, as we always had non-political social interactions with them. Greg and Karen began telling people the deal was finalized, that they had begun appointments at a fertility clinic, and that Karen was taking IVF hormones. Even more surprising, they were telling people they were glad the deal was finalized so they would never have to see us again. They stated we were horrible people who don't deserve a child because of our political beliefs, but they were glad to get free embryos. We had multiple friends who recorded rants on several occasions and provided them to us. One rant suggested they should make an anonymous tip to Child Protective Services so our child could be taken away, or, even if it didn't make it that far, so we would be extremely inconvenienced. We consulted with our legal counsel and made the decision to destroy the embryos instead of gifting them. We immediately filled out the paperwork and began the process to have them destroyed. The next time their legal counsel reached out, our counsel told them the embryos were destroyed and, as such, there would be no agreement on gifting the embryos. We thought this would be the end, and we made sure to have no further contact with Greg or Karen. Due to changes in our lives, we were about to move far away, and there would be no reasonable situation where we would ever run into each other. Well, after loading up our moving truck and doing a final walkthrough before pulling out, we received a court summons. Greg and Karen are suing us. They are suing us for breach of contract, theft, destruction of their property, claiming we had an oral contract and the embryos were theirs. Loss of wages due to fertility treatments, medical costs for fertility treatments, pain and suffering, emotional distress, and punitive damages. We presented the filing information to our legal counsel, along with recorded evidence and the contact information of friends who notified us of those incidents, who were more than happy to help us. Our legal counsel believes there is no case, but it will cost a lot to litigate, and advised us to countersue. Otherwise, we'd be on the hook for our own legal costs. Also, without embryos in their possession, Karen should not have started hormone treatments for IVF. Anyway, this is not about the legalities, which we are confident are on our side. When Greg and Karen started badmouthing us and claiming they had our embryos, am I the asshole for having them destroyed to prevent dealing with that couple? Or an even worse scenario? 5. Am I the asshole for wanting to cancel Christmas at my house, especially this late? Am I the asshole for wanting to, or if I actually do, cancel Christmas at my house this late in the game, 3 days before? I love Christmas. I'm a Christmas person. However, I'm very pregnant, very overwhelmed and very tired. We were planning on doing Christmas brunch at my house this year, hosting both my family, mom, sister, nephew, and my in-laws, Sil and Mil. For context, none of us live far from one another. I'm just so tired and there's so much to do and I've lost all Christmas spirit and drive. For one, I am working 2 jobs right now, trying to save and pay off debts before the baby comes. I still have to do my registry. We have house renovations that are still not done because I have to do all the organizing and ordering of everything. I have a ton of assignments at work. And of course my 2 colleagues are off this week. They slacked on something and called me this morning to add it to my list before the holiday. On top of my own responsibilities, the house has to be cleaned and I need to go shopping for food. I'm exhausted and don't have the bandwidth. On top of that, there are some legal items I'm now taking care of for my in-laws that need to be handled ASAP, since my husband did not do them. I don't feel like having people over. I don't feel like having everyone in my space. I'm exhausted, overworked, and really just not getting any relief. Of course, now my husband offers to help and asks me to make a list of things he needs to do, but that still takes so much mental load that I simply don't have the capacity for it. I really just want to cancel. People can do Christmas at their own houses. I just want to be with my dogs. I don't feel like dealing with a whole hullabaloo. I'm just over it. I don't even think my Sil wants to come up here. And frankly, I wouldn't care. However, my husband doesn't want my MIL to have to do anything for Christmas. But then it all falls on me. And I'm past the point of being even excited about my favorite holiday. I'm just sad. 6. Am I the asshole for losing respect for my dad because he cheated on my mom and for bringing up how he would respond to someone doing that to me? Last year, my mom found out my dad had cheated on her. I, 18F, found out a few weeks after she did, and it really devastated me. Before finding out he cheated, I adored my dad. I admired and respected him. He was always the person who told me that if a guy cheated, he wasn't worth anything. He told me I deserved the best. So, to find out he cheated on my mom, who deserves the best, just broke me. To make it worse, he's now in a relationship with the woman he cheated with, and he's tried to turn us into some kind of family. But I refuse to speak to her. And when I speak to him, it's to tell him I want him to go and take his side piece with him. He tried to show up to my graduation with her, but I asked my school not to let them in, and they did keep them away. My dad was upset and he has tried to talk to me for more than a year, but I always say no. A few days ago, he caught me when I was in a weird headspace and he got me to talk to him. He said he wanted a chance to sit down and talk because he loves me and doesn't want me to hate him or push him away. He said what he did to mom was wrong, but he had his reasons and it didn't change us. I told him it did change us. I said he was no longer the dad I could respect. He was the very thing he didn't want me to have, a cheater. I told him mom deserved way better and she deserved the best, and he turned out to be just another dude who couldn't keep it in his pants and makes excuses for cheating. He asked me what I'd say if I knew mom had lost her interest in sex and he had needs. I told him that made it worse. Instead of telling mom that part wasn't working anymore and figuring out if their marriage was over, he went out and slept with someone else and never told her. I said he lied to our faces about where he was going when he went to see her. He showered mom in gifts to hide his guilt, all the while hopping into bed with someone else. I asked him what he'd say if someone did that to me. He got mad even thinking about it. I told him that's how I feel about him doing it to mom. I told him to give up on the idea that we'll be some happy family because I refuse to condone his actions by accepting his side piece as a member of my family or by acting like all is good in the world by inviting him to be in my life. My dad told me he didn't cheat on me, that he was a good parent my whole life, and that should not be discarded because of marital issues. He also said it was unfair to compare it to me because I'm his baby. I told him she's my mommy, and he will never have my respect again. 7. Am I the asshole for walking away from a house I have no equity or say in and stiffing my soon-to-be ex? Before we got married, my in-laws sat me down and explained that I was never going to be on any paperwork for the house they helped my fiancé purchase as a wedding gift. They insisted on an ironclad prenup. I got a lawyer and made sure I was protected as well. After we got married, I contributed to the expenses of our household 50/50ths, mortgage and everything. It was a little more than I had paid in rent and utilities, but I figured we were building a future together. I make a decent living as a welder and I do not own a lot of stuff. I have a truck, a welding lid, a laptop, and some clothes. Before I met my wife, I lived at Airbnbs and all-inclusive resorts. I work 4 weeks on and get 2 weeks off. It didn't make sense to rent a house that could sit empty for a month at a time. I have helped my wife upgrade, renovate, and furnish the house. I'll give a simple example. We bought a very nice sectional. I paid for half upfront by giving the money to my wife. She then bought it on her credit card to get the points. After that, it wasn't my problem anymore. I recently found out that she has been seeing her ex when I'm out of town. I do not play that game. I will never compete for a woman, and I do not forgive cheating. So the last time I came home from work, I stayed at an Airbnb. I took the time to see a lawyer and initiate our divorce. When my time off was done, I went back to work. My next break is after the new year and I will be going to an all-inclusive. Neither this last time nor from now on will I be giving her any money. The problem is that she didn't use the money I gave her to pay down the mortgage or her credit card bill. She blew it on other stuff. So now, she is in a bind. My money made her lifestyle possible. By me just leaving and not engaging, she is kind of screwed. But there is nothing there for me anymore. We don't even have a dog like I wanted because she would have had to care for it while I was away. So all I left behind was a suit I only bought for our wedding, some gym clothes and my dress shoes. Once again, for the wedding. She, her family, and her friends are all over me to help her during our divorce. I have no obligation to do so though. And after our divorce, even less so. I can literally live out of my suitcase and my backpack. My only living expense beyond housing is long-term parking for my truck. Even my mom seems to think I'm screwing her over and punishing her too harshly. I personally can't believe my mom would take her side, but my parents' divorce was really antagonistic, and their inability to communicate led to both of them being much worse off than if they had cooperated and ended things amicably. Which one of these 7 am I the asshole situations would have had you saying nope immediately? Let me know in the comments.
Thanks for watching. If you got this far, leave a comment, like if you liked it, and follow for more.